Tower of the Spirit has an impregnable tower, which no danger can disturb as long as the tower is guarded by the invisible protector, who acts unconsciously and whose actions go astray when they become deliberate, reflexive, and intentional. The unconsciousness and entire sincerity of Tao are disturbed by an effort at self-conscious demonstration. All such demonstrations are lies. When one displays himself in this ambiguous way, the world outside storms in and imprisons him. He is no longer protected by the sincerity of Tao. Each new act is a new failure. If his acts are done in public in broad daylight, he will be punished by men. If they are done in private and in secret, they will be punished by spirits. Let each one understand the meaning of sincerity and guard against display. Each new act is a failure. If his acts are done in public, in broad daylight, he will be punished by men. If they are done in private and in secret, they will be punished by spirits. Let each one understand the meaning of sincerity and guard against display. He will be at peace with men and spirits and will act rightly unseen in his own solitude in the tower of his spirit. Each new act is a new failure. If his acts are done in public in broad daylight, he will be punished by men. If they are done in private and in secret, they will be punished by spirits. Let each one understand the meaning of sincerity and guard against display. He will be at peace with men and spirits and will act rightly unseen in his own solitude in the tower of his spirit. When one displays himself in this ambiguous way, the world outside storms in and imprisons him. He is no longer protected by the sincerity of Tao. Act is a failure. If his... Okay, this is called the inner law. The inner law, he whose law is within himself walks in hiddenness. His acts are not influenced by approval or disapproval. He whose law is outside himself directs his will to what is beyond his control and seeks to extend his power over objects. He who walks in hiddenness has light to guide him in all his acts. He who seeks to extend his control is nothing but an operator. While he thinks he is surpassing others, others see him merely straining, stretching to stand on tiptoe. When he tries to extend his power over objects, those objects gain ground of him. He who is controlled by objects loses possession of his inner self. If he no longer values himself, how can he value others? If he no longer values others, he is abandoned, he has nothing left. There is no deadlier weapon than the will. The inner law, he whose law is within himself, acts are not influenced. He who is controlled by objects loses possession of his inner self. If he no longer values himself, how can he value others? If he no longer values others, he is abandoned, he has nothing left. There is no deadlier weapon than the will. The sharpest sword is not equal to it. There is no robber so dangerous as nature, yang and yin. Yet it is not nature that does the damage, it is man's own will. He who walks in hiddenness has light to guide him in all his acts. He who seeks to extend his control is nothing but an operator. While he thinks he is surpassing others, others see him merely straining, stretching to stand on tiptoe. When he tries to extend his power over objects, those objects gain control of him. There is no deadlier weapon than the will. The sharpest sword is not equal to it. There is no robber so dangerous as nature. Yin and yin. Yes, it is not nature that does the damage. It is man's own will. If he no longer values himself, how can he value others?
We can never answer that question. Well, thanks for coming through, comedian. Unfortunately, I'm kind of at the end of my discussion here, but it's always nice to have you here, man. Unfortunately, you couldn't get any of that on tape. You know, I would actually like to get the rewind on that last one because I definitely had this guy pigeonholed. All right, then, brother, man. I sent you a follow, so and I joined the room as well. All right, no problem, man. Well, you have a good one. God bless, and to those that don't believe in the not God world, have a good day.
I'm the theist. Yeah, I'm the theist.
Oh, okay. I love how you're talking. You just, the balls on you, man. The balls, the fucking bassness in your voice when you said that. I was like, okay, this guy's got some fucking cojones. I like it. He calls it fucking stone and stone.
It's a religion, and they're constantly trying to convert me.
They're trying to just make you disbelieve in God. I mean, like even still, right? Like the way I view theism is like, let's say there is no God, right? Like ultimately, like let's just grant that premise for a minute, right? Let's just say there is no God. Then life is ultimately meaningless, right? Let's go into like nihilism or solipsism or whatever else it may be, right? I mean, what's more pragmatic to live your life by? In the sense of like, do I believe that there's absolutely fucking nothing, or or what's more pragmatic? Now people can say, well, you're just living in a delusion, but I mean, like, if the delusion is like it allows me to be a better person, or if the delusion puts me in a position, I'm not saying every belief system in God is like going to make you a better person. But what I'm saying is if I believe in a concept of God and it makes me a better person, then I think it's more pragmatic to believe in it than fucking not believe in it. Like, you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and if believing in God, right, puts you in a position where you're more socially amenable, right? For instance, let's take a random notion, right? Let's say I'm the type of person that just feels like killing anybody that upsets me in the day. Okay, eventually, I will get caught. I'll be arrested, and I'll be put in prison, and I'll spend my life in prison amongst people who are killers. Some of them even worse than I am, right? And that doesn't necessarily lead to a pleasant like life. Wouldn't it be better? Yeah.
Nietzsche would argue, right? It wasn't Nietzsche's hope that Uber match. Like, even though despite someone facing the endless peril of nihilism, that he was hoping for somebody to still stand on principles in some way without even, you know what I mean? Just because they choose to. You know what I mean? Like, even if it didn't exist, I would still choose it just because of the pragmaticism of it. Because it's the world I want to see.
Exactly. In fact,
I know it sounds fucking crazy to some people, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a Christianity is not just religion. Its book is also a book of wisdom, just like the letters of letters of a Stoic, just like Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
I agree. I know exactly what you mean, and that's kind of like when it comes to my theism. Like, even though I actually do believe that there is a God, but I mean, I think also I might be a fideist to some degree, not entirely, but I mean, like, it's hard to like prove a God to some people because like there's certain arguments. I mean, you could try to argue proof, but everybody, like, when I ask certain atheists, like, even if they're like, well, like for instance, let me give you a good example. Like, if I asked an atheist one time, like, he's like, well,
Yeah,
you know, I don't think there's a God because I don't think there's any evidence for it. I'm like, okay, well, what would that evidence look like? Like, what would be the standard for that evidence? He's like, I don't know. You tell me. I'm like, well, wait a minute, but you just said there's no evidence. So I'm wondering what your criteria of evidence that you had or didn't have. Like, what is that criteria that you used to say that there is no God as evidence? Like, it makes no sense for you to fucking demand some evidence and then not have some sort of standard for what it is.
Exactly. Some atheists don't realize that the burden of proof of in a debate with a theist is on both the theist and the atheist. It's on anyone that is making a positive claim.
That's why the agnostics are the winners.
That's why maple syrup Jeremy is agnostic, because he's a bitch that doesn't want to.
Oh my God.
By objects loses.
Please don't scroll. I'm just trying to become a big content creator.